Hey everybody, I'm David.
And I'm Eddie.
And we are full-time gays.
And we're coming to you from the Woods Campground in the Poconos.
Join us as we give you a review and a bit of a tour of one of the largest LGBT campgrounds in the world. All right, hey everybody, and welcome once again from the Woods Campground in
Lehighton, Pennsylvania,
which is smack in the middle of the Poconos.
And it's beautiful.
It is gorgeous. This is an LGBTQIA+
LMNOP
campground, meaning everybody's welcome. There are men, there are women, there are mostly men, but there are women. Yep. It is clothing optional. There are our heterosexual allies are here. There are transgender folks here. It is all inclusive, clothing optional. Amazing park. It's one of the biggest parks from a person standpoint in the country, which probably makes it one of the largest parks in the world.
Probably, yeah.
Last weekend we got here, it was a normal weekend, and it was about 12 or 1,300 people.
Let that sink in for a second. 12 or 1,300 people on a regular weekend.
People. Yes. This coming up weekend, we're not going to be here for it, but it's Illumination Weekend,
which is one of their biggest weekends of the year, and they're expecting over 2,000 people.
Yeah. So this is like next level. It's more like fairgrounds, or as the owner put it, a gay cruise. Meaning there's events all the time. It's 160 acres total, but only, the owner said 10. I think it's more like 15 acres are developed. Yep. Some are developed with full-on, full-service sites. Some are more parking lot, overflow, generator area. But yeah, just a boatload of people.
But again, let that sink in. 15 acres with 2,000 people.
It is next level, yeah. So if you haven't watched our videos before, we rate gay campgrounds on 4 different categories. We are full-timers ourselves, so we have a big rig, a 44-foot fifth wheel, so we rate campgrounds on big rig friendliness. How easy is it to get to the campground? And then how easy is it to navigate within it once you're here? Then we look at
the grounds and facilities. What's here to do while you're staying? What are the sites like, and what amenities do they have?
Exactly. Then we look at the vibe, and then the vibe, granted, it's a subjective take, but we try to qualify what we say, and the overall kind of social culture of the park, and it changes from week to week. It happens to be what we saw while we were here, in our opinion. Yep. And then finally we look at
the internet, because we still have to work.
We do. And so we use hotspots for our internet unless campgrounds have Wi-Fi. So we'll talk about the strength for Verizon, for AT&T, as well as the Wi-Fi amenities here. And new for 2021 in this massive road trip that we're doing, we're on the back half of it now, we're coming back south. We also look at some of the things in the local area so that you know how close you are from restaurants and facilities or different things that you might need. With that said, let's talk about
big rig friendliness.
So getting to the park, it's actually a lot easier than I thought. The problem was that there were lots of different ways to get here, and I'm one of those that really do my due diligence, and I've got the RV GPS app and everything, but there's still a lot of different ways. And so I called the owner, I emailed the owner the week before, and he not only gave us really specific directions, when I commented that it would be so nice if that was on the website, the next day,
he added it to the website.
And a whole section under the FAQs with detailed directions with picture maps of how to get here from any different kind of compass direction. Yep. Awesome, awesome, awesome. The route we took is the route he recommended, and aside from having the freeway closed from an accident, which was not the campground's fault.
Added 2 hours to our drive.
We got here right at the end of day, beginning of night. We have never parked or driven Big Blanche at nighttime. The roads to get here, we were still in the daytime, even though it was kind of dusk. It was fine. They're all paved. You get off the turnpike, there's 7 miles between the turnpike and the campground. Of those 7 miles, 3 miles are just a standard 2-lane road, no big deal. It's called Poco Road. After that, the last 3 or 4 miles, they're narrower. They are paved, but they are also in the hills. And so there's some ups and downs. Yep. There's one kind of down and up that made me a little nervous at first, but it was fine.
Full-on roller coaster.
Yeah, it was totally fine. Take it slow. You get to the campground, there is what they call a gravel superhighway. It's a very, very wide road. It's kind of part of like a power line sort of easement thing. Yep. And you come down to the campground, you pass the storage field, which also serves as like the generator camper overflow area. And once you're in the park, it's actually not that bad. I was a lot more worried about it than it ended up to be. We're in what they call an oops site, which means it's not a standard site. We called after the reservations had opened for the year, and I don't know why he chose to let us have a site. had nothing to do with these videos, but we're very grateful that he did. Yes. And so our oops site was, you know, it wasn't the easiest site to get into, but that's an oops site. All of the regular sites where transients like us would normally park, like right behind us, they are beautifully angled, large sites, nice gravel, paved,
concrete patios.
They've got pull-through sites. They've got an older section down here, but that's not where the transients like us or likely you are gonna go. And so those smaller roads, the original campground, aren't really relevant to the big rig factor because you're not gonna be going down there most likely. So for me, getting to the campground, it's not the easiest in the world, but it's by no means difficult. So I'm gonna call it 6 out of 10. And then within the campground, I'm gonna call it an 8 out of 10. There's wide enough roads, lots of trees. You gotta watch out for the trees. Other than that, it's easy. Yep. So for me, my overall rating is 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, getting to the park, the only thing I wanted to add is on the corner of that I don't even know what it's called. Poco, whatever. Locomotive.
Pocahontas Road.
The corner of that road, there's like a general store, feed store type of thing, and it's like on the corner. So like you really got to swing out wide to get around it. Again,
and there was a boat coming, like a truck pulling a boat, and he wasn't stopping.
Oh, he wasn't gonna, no.
So we're like,
so yeah, I mean, all the roads were paved, easy. Yeah, you hit the roller coaster road, not a big deal. Everything was great. So I'm gonna give that a score of 7. And then in the park, again, the roads that a transient or a guest, a weekender, is going to use are wide, well-maintained gravel roads. The sites are easy to get into, so I'm going to give it an 8. The overall score will be a 7.5.
And mine is 7, which means our overall score is 7.25. Thanks for being extra.
You carry the 1.
7.25 for big rig. We may have re-recorded this. That's why we're laughing, because we couldn't figure it out. All right, so that said, let's talk about grounds and facilities.
Grounds and facilities. Boy, this is going to be a long section because they've got a lot. Think fairgrounds meets cruise ship meets 5-star resort type of amenities. When you check in, it is a massively sized store and check-in area. They have your camping supplies. They have swag you can pick up from the woods. They have your Andrew Christian undergarments. They also have cups and whatever else you need.
Video VHS head cleaner.
Did they have those in there?
Yep, they did.
I do know there were some lanterns in there that were marked as lanterns, but I'm not sure. We'll show you in a picture here. But you also have snacks and foods and drinks and stuff like that in there. Along with that, in that building, there is a restaurant, full-service restaurant that's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
On the weekends.
On the weekends. If you can't find anything in the restaurant, there is a cafe alongside the pool. And if you can't find anything at either one of those, you can go to the store and get some chips.
And the cafe is more like kind of like food truck, right? Sort
yeah,
of like
burgers, fries, cheese sticks, chicken fingers, stuff like that.
But there's quite a bit in the store too, more than just chips.
Oh yeah, I mean you can get your microwavable snacks and stuff like that, so you have a lot of food options. There is the pool, there is a hot tub, there is volleyball courts that were actually being used for volleyball. Yeah,
the pool is big and the pool area is ginormous, and that you would need that with as many people as come here.
Tons of seating area around the pool.
Yep.
The other thing I noticed about the pool is there's not like a 9-foot section. It was like 3 or 4 feet all the way across. I mean, no one's going in here and diving or doing laps.
Right.
They're standing around and drinking.
There's not much point in having a super deep pool at a gay camp.
Right. You have the volleyball courts that were actually being used as volleyball courts.
And those volleyball courts had branded nets.
Yes, the middle of the nets actually says the Woods.
There's branding here. Sorry for interrupting you. There is branding here everywhere. These guys are branding geniuses. There are reasons this place is as popular as it is. Sorry.
Exactly. So there's also an amphitheater here, but not just like for random whatever shows. Like they actually had choreography going on that was being practiced with a director.
Gay cruise ship, right?
Yeah, gay cruise ship type of entertainment. There is a massage gazebo and tent, like dedicated for masseuse. There are trails, lots of trails all throughout here. I feel like I'm forgetting something with the grounds facility.
Oh my gosh, are you forgetting lots of stuff? Yeah, the place is 161 acres, and if only 10 or 15 of that is developed, the trails are amazing, and it's in the Poconos, so there's lots of great, beautiful walking trails all around the property.
With an underwear tree.
With an underwear tree, yep. And there are 5 sets of bathhouses. Comfort stations where you can shower, use the bathroom, etc. They're named after the Golden Girls. Other people have done this, but tell us in the comments why there'd be 5. If you can think of the 5th, let us know. All right, there's a lot more than that. There are all the sites here, either 30 amp or 50 amp, or at least the ones that you'd be renting.
Yep.
Ours have sewer. There are plenty of sites with sewer.
Beautifully landscaped everywhere.
Beautiful.
The perm sites are, you know, some of them in kind of the more dense areas. They have nice sites, but I guess older sites, there are decks with like sunken bath or hot tubs in them. I mean, just gardens galore. Some of these sites are just, I mean, they have full extra buildings
right,
attached to their RV.
I mean, there's a lot more than just that, but that starts it off. And the fact that that just simply starts it off, should tell you a lot. Again, the place has not even been here 20 years, and it is already the most populous gay campground in the country, if not the world.
Let's just say you can't find a reason to be bored here. They had their trash pickup areas are all split out from trash to recycling. Yes. And it's not just trash and recycling, it's trash, glass, cans, paper.
How many people do they have working here?
God, there is a staff of 75 employees here. There is a dedicated guest services staff that run the office and the store. There is a dedicated maintenance staff, a dedicated housekeeping staff. There are 4 housekeepers on the weekends that literally just go in the golf carts and go to each one of the 5 comfort stations on a full loop and just keep cleaning all weekend long.
And there's 30 rentals. There's over 100 perms. There are hundreds of sites.
Yes.
Lots of tenting areas. I mean, the place is happening, and in the air it looks really dense, like they're just crammed in here, but when you're at the ground level it's actually not so much. There's some campers that are back to back pretty close, but most every site has a pretty decent kind of like yard area. Yeah. So it doesn't feel that cramped at the ground level. Like, I mean, the place is beautifully manicured. There's a lot of pride and ownership. This is a 10 out of 10 for me in grounds and facilities. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I also add too, there was like a shed area down by the lake.
It's a storage shed for maintenance equipment.
I do see some gentlemen often going in there late in the evening. It seems to be like they're checking out the equipment. I see a lot of like oohs and ohs and stuff like that as they're checking stuff out. So there is that.
For people that like machines.
Doing manly things. That involves grunting and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I give it a 10 out of 10.
And I can't give it anything lower than that. 10 out of 10.
Okay. Grounds and facilities, 10 out of 10. Talk to us. Actually, is it my turn?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. You talk about the vibe.
So the vibe, as we mentioned in our previous videos and earlier in this video, it's totally subjective. It's going to change from weekend to weekend, to person. It's going to change upon the weather, the internet cycle. I mean, so many things are going to change with that. We got here Friday night. It was frat party weekend. By the time we got here and set up and everything, the party was already going on. And they were having basically like a naked frat party at one of these sites. The site, whoever had the site, they actually had a full DJ booth. They were doing twister games. Naked twister games. We were tired from having a 12-hour drive day. It was already super late. We were way too sober for the rest of the crowd.
For the moment, we caught up eventually.
We caught up, but it was super welcoming. Like, it was just like, hey, come on in. Spent Saturday.
Well, you forgot about the rest of it. There was the fire Friday night.
Yeah, there was
the dance.
They did a bonfire Friday night. Oh, I didn't even mention that in the grounds facilities. They have a full-on dance rec hall area. I mean, it's literally like a nightclub. So people had migrated over to there to enjoy that. It was just super welcoming. Never felt any kind of attitude that night. Saturday, we kind of went around. One of the owners took us on the trails so we can check all that out. We were the only ones to go with him. I guess nobody really wanted to do that first thing.
Well, there was only 1,200 people here, so, you know.
It's kind of hard to round some people up.
2 out of 1,200 went on this hike. But it was great. I'm glad that we did. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and as we're just walking around, like, people are just saying hi to us and trying to invite us in on their site and enjoy their campfire. But yeah, just a super welcoming vibe. I've never felt any kind of attitude. And in a group of 12 to 1,300 people, you'd think you'd run into that, a little bit of clickiness here and there, but I never once felt that.
Yeah, what's interesting about it, like some parks that are mostly community and just a little bit of transients, that can be a tough nut to crack. Yeah. Because this is almost the opposite. There's only 100 and something sites that are perm sites or seasonal sites,
yep.
but yet 1,200 people here. So it's like the opposite weighting.
Yep.
There's more people here for the weekend that are just out to have a good time. So with that said, everybody's kind of in the same boat as you. It's really easy to meet people. Yeah, you might come with a group of friends, but there's 1,200 people. So if this group isn't, you know, your thing, or you're not their thing, the group right next to, you know, your 9 o'clock might be. And so there's a mix, a really good, healthy mix between, you know, that quote unquote thumpa party DJ crowd, and there's a place for that. There's nothing wrong with having that.
Yep.
And I'm glad they do, and they do it really well.
Yep. And there's a good mix of those who want to just sit by the campfire and shoot stories, and
you can do either one.
Yeah.
To your heart's content, and either one is easy.
Yeah.
So for me, the vibe is amazing here. I'm gonna call it a 9.
Yeah, I am gonna also call it a 9.
Yeah, it might be higher if it was, you know, there was a little bit more of a sense of community, but when you get 1,200 people here, it all gets kind of lost in the shuffle.
Right.
And so that's not a negative. I mean, it's a 9 out of 10, for God's sake. I hope you like it. But no, it's a wonderful, wonderful vibe here. We were worried about that given the size of the campground. So 9?
9.
I guess I'll talk about the internet. So we do work remotely, of course, like a lot of folks do. Like a lot of folks do. And so internet is essential for us. It maybe isn't as much for you. We got here and we were really worried because it was the weekend. Now, granted, we don't need that internet during the weekend. We just need it for the apps, if you will. And for that purpose, it was fine. We use Verizon primarily. AT&T was okay also. We did boost our signal, but I think the tower gets overloaded for either carrier during the weekend. If there was ever a place that would justify or validate a cell phone carrier to like beef up their capacity, a place that gets over 1,000 people every weekend, you would think that they would build some extra capacity. Right. And I say that only because during the week, it was noticeably better. Yeah. And so they should plan for that better. Shame on you, Verizon and AT&T. Right. Now, the campground does have Wi-Fi, an extensive Wi-Fi infrastructure.
And it's all fiber optic.
All fiber. Now, there's tiers. And this is the first gig campground that we've seen that charges. But because it's fiber, I almost can think that they have it working. Like they have a functional system. There is a free option that you can use that's, you know, it's good for, again, for the apps, for email, for the basics, but it's not great. But then they have some tiered plans that you can buy, and they're not crazy. It's, you know, like 10, 15 bucks for a day or two. And then the higher tier plan, the longer the days, the more megabits per second, but it's almost like it's allocating you extra bandwidth, kind of like when you go to a hotel. And so,
matter of fact, when you sign up for it, it's like a hotel. When you go in, you have to like click on the Wi-Fi and it says put in your name and your room number. It does something very similar to here too. Yeah,
and so normally that would be a turnoff for me, but just given that the towers were getting so bogged down, I was really worried about the week during work, so I went ahead and I just bought the 3 days of, I think it ended up being 10 megabits per second, and I've been fine for work. No issues at all. Now that said, I was also fine on Verizon during the week. AT&T had like 1 or 2 bars. I didn't do a speed test on it, but I'm sure it's okay. So during the week, you're probably gonna be fine. Unless you're on a lot of video calls, you'll probably be fine with just the free Wi-Fi option or just your cell phone hotspot if you're not capped. So for me, yeah, you gotta pay for it, but it's there and it's reliable and if you need it. So I'm gonna call the internet here, despite having kind of a weak cell signal, I'm gonna call it a 7. It'd be higher, and this isn't really on the campground. The cell signal rarely is, but the cell carriers should be doing something for a place this big.
You would think so.
The Wi-Fi, good, a little on the pricey side, not typically used to paying for it, willing to do it, it's our livelihood, but 7 out of 10.
Yeah. And I was actually not working this week, yay. So I didn't get a whole lot of experience with the internet on a work basis. It was just, you know, simple cell phone stuff, you know, that kind of stuff. Cell phone. Yeah, anyways. I had things to look up. So for me, it was like, okay, the cell signal was marginal on the weekend. It got better during the week. And I actually just used the free Wi-Fi service, and it was totally fine for what I needed to use it for. I love that there was an option to upgrade the Wi-Fi so you can get something a little more powerful, which I have not seen before. So I'm actually going to give it an 8.
Okay, so 7.5 out of 10 for the internet. So that gives us our scores. We got 7.25 for Rig Friendliness, 10 for grounds and facilities, 9 for the vibe, and 7.5 for the internet. So a really high scoring campground, and I would hope so. And it underscores the reason that so many people come here. The place has it going on.
And if you want to come here, highly recommend find out when they're opening their reservation site for the beginning of the
March
season
1st.
and get on that site immediately.
Yeah, it sells out. Some of the weekends sell out within 10 or 15 minutes.
Yep.
So this place cannot grow fast enough.
Exactly.
You know, most people aren't coming like us with big rigs or here to work.
Yep.
And so you could, if that's not you, cut away the big rig friendliness, cut away the internet, and just look at the grounds, the facilities, and the vibe. And that's 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
This place is amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and the local area, the best way to describe it is you're in the middle of the Poconos.
Yeah.
So anything that you'd want to do in the mountains and the Poconos, this is where you go to do it. There are towns in the area. The nearest one is Lehighton, which is what, 15-20 minutes away.
Sounds about right.
And then there's
Jim Thorpe.
Jim Thorpe, and that's a beautiful touristy area right on the river.
We're not talking about a guy named Jim Thorpe. We're talking about the town Jim Thorpe.
That was named after a guy named Jim Thorpe. Yeah, Jim Thorpe is sort of the touristy area, very cute, very quaint, you know, touristy stuff.
They've got like this vintage passenger train station thing. It's really cool.
Yeah, Lehighton has, Lehighton has, you know, your basics, your some of your fast food places, your stores. You need to get groceries. There are other towns in the area. That's where we kept going back and forth. But honestly, the tourism here, you don't come to the woods and race to get a reservation to go look at all the other stuff unless you're here for the week. And if you're here for the week, see the Poconos, go to Jim Thorpe, and look up some other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this really is the destination. This is why people come here.
This is why you're here. This park, that building that has everything in it and around it is why you're here.
Yeah. Bottom line, would you come back here again?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was worried. I was really worried because this isn't typically our vibe, our scene, you know, the big, huge crowds. We prefer the more quaint, cheersy places. This turned it all around for us.
Yes.
We had a wonderful time. We didn't even talk about the boat races in the ponds. We'll throw some pictures. I'm sorry, the float party on the pond. Yeah. It's a wonderful place. Highly recommend it. Make your reservations early. It's worth it. Come on out.
Yep.
With that said,
I'm Eddie.
and I'm David.
And we're
in it together.